Thank you for tuning in to part 7 of why I am considering giving up trying to communicate with God. When I obsess over Christianity and start reading the Bible for hours at a time, I am highly susceptible to losing touch with the rational world. When I adopt paradigms derived from the Bible, such as the idea that God communicates directly with us through our thoughts, or answers prayers by giving us feelings of conviction, I once again become highly susceptible to all manners of magical thinking and irrational thought. Many people who do not possess any type of mental disorder find peace and stability within Christianity. They may not be able to understand my type of thinking, nor see the dangers that I have become so intimately acquainted with within the faith that they believe is necessary for salvation and redemption from hell. They can't understand the mindset of someone who can literally get caught up in the terminology the Bible uses, a person who would take literally Christ's command to gouge out your eye if it causes you to sin, and pick up a stick, contemplating for a few infinite seconds the ramifications of sticking it into his eyes to prevent himself from lusting. They can't understand the mindset of someone considering jumping in front of a semi, believing in his heart he will be doing it to save his loved ones from himself, who, in his mind, had blasphemed the Holy Spirit by stating to others that Christ was in hell, and he was the Antichrist. The Bible defined my reality, and I was subject to all the terrors of hell threatened by Christ to those who were lost. At other moments, in times of elation, in what I consider to be pure communion with God, the Bible also provided the context for my very identity, which revolved around taking on the spirit of Elijah and preparing the world for the return of Jesus Christ. Needless to say, the context of the Bible and Christianity did not provide my mind with a reality paradigm that promotes stability. In a world where God calls prophets, people are brought back from the dead, massive wars between angels and demons are fought, in such a world, an unstable mind can easily get lost, and he can further lose his grasp of what is real and what is not in the context of the current world if he allows the two worlds to mix. When he looks at the current world with the old world thinking going through his mind, he begins to merge the two and sees hallucinations of prophets, imagines worldwide wars, plans events where he can use his new healing powers from God. Why shouldn't he think such things? If they happened before, why shouldn't they happen now? And why not to him? It makes perfect sense with that sort of rationale. So how do we prevent this man from allowing old world concepts to mix with the current world, which results in his inevitable breakdown, as well as a disruption to society? We take away the stimulus. Or better yet, allow him to look at the same stimulus from an entirely different point of view, one which is much more practical and useful. In sum, use the present as a means by which to interpret the past, rather than the other way around. When the past, that is, the past according to that which influential and powerful men wrote down ages ago, becomes the foundation for understanding and interpreting the present, we are basically relying on the integrity of their written words, which are ultimately impossible to validate, as we were not there to confirm that the events they describe actually took place, and we elevate those written words even above our own experience of the current world. We don't experience God speaking to men from the clouds. We don't experience people coming back from the dead. We don't experience water miraculously parting in the sea. And yet, for some reason, we accept these events as really happening because we trust the people that wrote them. Even though we have never met those people, we truly don't even have a clue as to what type of character they had, other than how they testified about themselves, or how others testified about their character in this book we read called the Bible. When an unstable mind defines the present, which he can see and experience, by the past, which he can only have faith in, and the two realities differ markedly in many different qualities, then he is in danger of confusing one for the other, and allowing his conception of the past to overlap with his experience of the present. But when a mind, unstable or not, starts from the present and allows his current experience of the world to shape his understanding of the past, he is more in tune with the only reality that really matters, and that is the present reality. In saying this, I'm not suggesting the man shouldn't understand the present from within the context of history, only that his experience of natural laws known today should take precedence over stories in the past that indicate these natural laws have been broken or no longer apply, or in any manner suggest that the order of reality is vastly different then than it is now. When the man takes these ideas into consideration, the next time he gets the impulsive idea, I'm going to go into a hospital and heal people, and God will empower me to do it, just like he did the apostles. He will likely remember that God only operates in this fashion in stories written long ago. And if it were the case that God had granted such powers to men, it is certain one of these men would have made headlines long ago by clearing a hospital of all of its sick patients. Suppose the Bible is right. Suppose it is the nature of reality itself that changes, and not man's perception of it. Even if this were the case, what good would it do a man to accept that in some distant reality in the past, the rules were changed, and God spoke directly with people? Donkeys and serpents spoke human languages, and certain people were able to wield the power of God as though they were God himself. Is this alternate reality relevant by any stretch of the imagination to the present reality where none of these things are possible and have only been reported as occurring by insane people in mental institutions? Does it really matter in the long run whether we believe this other reality existed or not? Perhaps there are some interesting stories that occurred within this alternate reality that might have something to teach us today, but are the distinct details of the story really necessary or relevant? Does it really inspire us and demonstrate God's love to us when we hear how God hardened Pharaoh's heart on purpose so he could make a spectacle of his people and killed thousands of firstborns, as well as inflicting innumerable suffering on many who had nothing to do with Pharaoh's refusal to let God's people go? Do the details of that story inspire us to be better human beings, more loving to our neighbors, more friendly towards our enemies? Couldn't about 90% of the contents of the Bible be removed without really taking anything away from the Bible's more uplifting moral sentiments? Why do we have to know that King David killed 1,000 Philistines and traded their 1,000 foreskins for a wife? Is it necessary for us to know that God killed thousands of David's fighting men as punishment for David taking a census that God himself ordered David to take? Do we need to know that God didn't permit handicapped and physically deformed people from worshiping him in the assembly with all the other Israelites? Are the laws requiring rape victims to marry their rapists relevant or beneficial in any way in today's society? Maybe these recorded histories and laws were somehow beneficial to the ancient Israelites, perhaps a source of pride, perhaps necessary for self-regulation. After all, every civil society needs some order. Just as the nation of America required laws to function and to promote order, or England, or China, or Jamaica, so did ancient Israel need to have laws to function. They happen to fancy attributing their laws, every single one, to their God. They certainly have the right to do so, but just as the rest of the world had no need for many of Israel's laws, other than the ones that were useful for promoting order, they did not have any specific need for Israel's God, Jehovah, either. The laws Israel's God supposedly brought into existence, handed down by Moses, certainly must not have come as a huge surprise to the people of Israel. Most are merely laws of common decency. Are we to assume that before Israel had the Ten Commandments, Jews could freely take items that belonged to someone else and have no guilt or idea they had done anything wrong? Could a man murder his neighbor in cold blood and get away with it, furthermore having no sense that he had done anything wrong? The case of the law has often been presented to us in the sort of fashion where the law was provided by God in order to convict us of guilt. This is actually a pretty strange argument, if you really think about it. The argument assumes that there would be no guilt if the law was not known. That is, if I lived during that time, I would have no idea. There would be no possible way for me to know that murdering someone was wrong unless the law was presented to me in an oral fashion that my ears could hear and my mind could understand. Before I had heard that God created a law against murdering people, I could kill people and I would not have guilt. But after I heard the law, then I would have guilt. Before I had heard the law against coveting, I could see my neighbor's house and dream up ways I could take it from him without a tinge of guilt. But as soon as I realized God has a law against that, then immediately I receive guilt when I covet. I'll continue this in the next video.